Hello, my name is Anne DeSantis. I'm the director for the St. Raymond Nonnatus Foundation for Freedom, Family, and Faith. I want to tell you what's been going on with us since we've been in existence in 2015. The Mercedarian Friars came together and decided that they wanted to start a foundation to make outreach to families in crisis. And that's exactly what they did when the St. Raymond Nonnatus Foundation came into existence as a nonprofit 501c3 headquartered in Philadelphia. Since that time, I became the director in the beginning of 2018, and we basically have four facets to what we do. We offer prayer, priestly consultations, podcasts and videos, and also programs and events. Now, if you've never been to our website, just to invite you to go to nonnatus.org and check out all the great things that we've been doing. Because since that time, since we've been in existence, we've now helped hundreds of families who are going through really challenging times. And as you all know, we went through a really challenging time in 2020. So I'd just like to invite you to go and check out the great things that we're doing. And there's more to come. If you or your church community would like us to come and do some type of an event where we can talk about what we offer in terms of that pastoral accompaniment and making outreach to families in crisis, please do reach out to us. And I'm just so grateful to be able to serve people like you and your families. So again, learn about us at nonnatus.org. Thank you.
Fiat Ministry Network and Patchwork Heart Ministry present Journeys in Faith. Now, here's Anne DeSantis.
Hi, good evening, and welcome to Journeys in Faith here on Fiat Ministry Network. My name is Anne DeSantis. It's great to be here with you again for our Mercedarian Friars series. I'm really excited because this evening we have Pastor Father James Mayer from St. Rocco, Cleveland, on this interview with us this evening. Father James, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome, Anne. Good to be with you. Thank you.
That's right, because we've been wanting to do this interview for quite a while, and it's just wonderful to have you here. I know you're a busy pastor, and taking the time to do this interview with us, we just appreciate it so much.
I'm happy that I could finally help you out here.
That's right. So why don't we start out with, if we could, I know the people who are watching, they'd probably just love to hear your personal story, your sort of your bio per se, and your reason that you decided to become a Mercedarian priest. We'd love to hear.
Well, thank you again. I always look back at my life as rather something of a very simple one. There wasn't anything extraordinary in how I came to discern or understand what God was asking me. My family belonged to St. Rocco since 1970, and we were accepted here by Mercedarian Father Andrew Costanzo. He was the pastor at the time, and St. Rocco was all Italian. It was all Italian. It was a personal ethnic Italian parish. And at that time, the neighborhoods were changing, and St. Rocco had a kindergarten, a Catholic kindergarten. And the other Catholic schools around us did not. And so my parents wanted us to go to Catholic kindergarten. And I was the oldest of two sons, and so I was the guinea pig, so to speak. So I was sent into school at St. Rocco's. And that's really where it all began, because had not Father Andrew welcomed our family into the parish to go to the school, and then eventually because of school just getting involved, my mother, especially in the PTU and the different sodalities and functions, I don't know if we'd be here today. So my father was always grateful to Father Andrew. And in kindergarten at the school here, we had sisters, but we also had the friars. And the friars would be around the schoolyard, and they would be in the school building. And one friar in particular, Brother Richard Henry, he taught religion in the kindergarten and the first and second grades. And so he was a gigantic man at that time. You're a little 5-year-old, and so he was so tall and in the white habit, and that it really made an impression on me. And then he would give medals out of Our Lady of Mercy to all the children, and I always kept that medal. And as the years went on, my family was a very devout Catholic family, with my great aunts and uncles and my grandparents. Everyone was just a very strong Catholic culture. And my brother and I were altar boys, and we were always around the parish and helping out and riding our bikes around the neighborhood and so forth. But I was always attracted to the friars and how they lived, what they did, talking with them. There was never reason not to be, to approach them. You were never afraid of them. You were just, wanted to talk to them because they were just so kind to us. So I dare say it was during high school, I started to think about it and what to do, because you have to make decisions. And I was in a Catholic high school here in Cleveland. And so I started to talk to a priest. And he was the chaplain at Holy Name High School where I was, Father Mark Hollis, a great guy. And he was helping me to discern. I did not want to be a priest. I wanted to be a brother. I felt called to be a brother. And then a family friend of ours, Father John Cregan, both of these priests are from the Diocese of Cleveland. They both helped me in my journey to understand what the Lord was calling me to. And they both encouraged me to go to the Diocese of Cleveland. And they wanted me to pursue that and go to the diocese, go to the seminary. And yet, because of my experience of family life, now this was back in the late 70s and early 80s already, and diocesan priests were already starting to live alone because of the lack of numbers and personnel. And so I kept thinking, oh no, I would miss family life. I like family life. And so I saw how the friars lived, and I saw the young friars at that time. They were students. They'd come for Easter or the summertime to work at the parish, and then we'd go out for ice cream, or we'd go to a movie and do things, or go to a baseball game and so forth. And so then I made application. It was the summer of my senior year in high school. And so I was not 18, and so my mother and a very good friend, they drove me out to Philadelphia, and I made a visit to the friars there. And I remember my mother had to sign the papers because I was not 18 so that I could pursue the application process. But I was all gung-ho. And then during my senior year of high school, there were just some ups and downs, so to speak. And there was the passing of my grandmother and other close relatives, and it just was an emotionally difficult time. And so I waited a year, and I was working already I was working at Kmart. It was a great job. I loved it there. And then I was also doing janitorial here at the parish. So, and then I was going to the community college. So I waited a year and kept myself busy, enjoyed some time with my family and friends and so forth. And then after a year of continued discernment, I reapplied and went in, and this time with the understanding that God was calling me to be a priest. So I began my studies in Philadelphia in 1984 at the seminary, and lived at our House of Formation on Drexel Road. And I spent the next 7 years in Philadelphia enjoying Overbrook at St. Charles Seminary. After completing my studies and having gone through the novitiate, made my vows, and The superiors, they sent me to Rome, and I did not want to go, but I went, and I completed not only my studies in theology, but then my licentiate from the Lateran University. And then the roller coaster of religious life just continued. So.
Yeah, beautiful story. I'm admittedly, I've never heard that full story. I knew little pieces about where you were, but
Mm,
just to hear the details, and I didn't
mhm,
know the kindergarten story. So,
mhm.
and maybe other people who are watching that know you, perhaps your parishioners there, it's interesting for them to hear that you've been a member and part of that community for such a long time at St. Rocco's.
Oh, there is, most of them are fully aware.
Okay.
Some of them still remember me when I was a little boy.
Oh, do they? Okay.
And it is very interesting to be here because I made my solemn vows here. I was ordained a priest here, and I celebrated my 25th Jubilee here. So it was not only going to school here, but the whole sacramental life. My parents were buried from here. My niece and nephew were baptized here. My brother was married here. So it's been the real spiritual home for my family for so many decades. So it's a very it's truly a blessing. It's very special.
Now, I was also thinking of another story, and maybe you can even connect the dots here, but Laura DePilla, who might even be
Yes,
watching right now, who's
yes.
the cook in
Uh,
Philadelphia, and
mm-hmm,
for that community there for the Mercedarians. I remember her
mm-hmm.
telling me the story when she first met you, when you first came to Philadelphia. And so you knew her well, and you knew some of the people, and really got connected with the people here and where I am, which is the Philadelphia. I'm in the greater Philadelphia area, but the
Hmm.
people from that community and that time, I'm sure that brings back memories as well.
Well, Overbrook and Southwest Philadelphia, the parishioners, St. Donatas, and also even parishioners from Our Lady of Lourdes when I was a student. The neighborhood was great. I loved it, the people. And of course, I lived a total of 19 years in Philadelphia. And so it's really, I used to call it my first home, but it's my second home because now I live more in Cleveland than I did in Philadelphia at this point.
Yeah, beautiful story. Let's move on to talk, if we could, about the order, because there's some
Sure.
people watching, other people within our audience that would love probably to know just a little bit more about the Mercedarian order. I know they can go to the website, which is orderofmercy.org, and just check it out, learn more.
Sure.
But
Yes.
are there any things that you think that would be interesting to note for the people watching about the Mercedarian order?
Mhm. Well, I think the most fascinating thing is that we're over 800 years old at this point, and that we're one of the ransoming orders that have survived all these centuries. That we actually take a vow to give our lives to ransom those in danger of losing their faith, and that's always been adaptive to the circumstances, the culture, the times where Christians have been either physically imprisoned or even oppressed by political, social systems contrary to the gospel. And even in our own times, we can see so many evidences of captivity from addictions and also ignorance, as well as even, I would dare say, even in the last 2 years with the struggling of the pandemic, how people's lives suffering from depression because of the lack of social interaction and the proximity of being with people, even though you can see each other, maybe like a system like this here with, an interview on Zoom or FaceTime, it's not the same. And that missing of the physical contact and presence, that can lead people to great depression and even doubt in God. And so our charism to free people from these chains, which can take any form and can lead them to, God forbid, but a point of despair and to give up. So the vow, our fourth vow to ransom, is something I think that's very adaptable, and it takes eyes of faith, which faith then is nurtured by prayer. And in our community, the order, that's all nurtured also through community life and the inspiration of the Blessed Virgin Mary. So our
Mhm.
constitutions tell us that the redemptive works that we carry out are always from her. They are inspired from our Blessed Mother. So we have
Mm,
to keep close contact with her.
that's right, Our Lady of Mercy. And thank
Yes.
you for just talking about that, because what you said also about what people go through and sometimes those doubts that they have. And,
Mm.
we never would have thought, say, 3 years ago, what the country and the world went through with this pandemic. So, right, it's a
Mm-hmm.
time really to reflect about how God is with us even in those darkest times,
Most
and
definitely.
how this order really helps to bring that charism of loving people in their hardest spaces, right? And bringing God's love, and also through that prayer to Our Lady of Mercy. And that's so special. So I just appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
And we do have to take a short break. So
Sure.
just stay with us. Just in a few minutes, we'll be right back here on Journeys in Faith with Father James Mayer. Welcome back to Journeys in Faith. Thank you so much for joining us on this Friday evening for our Mercedarian Friars series. And I have with me Father James Mayer. And during the first half of the program, he talked about his life and about the Mercedarian order. And I was wondering, Father, if you could just share with us a little about the history of St. Rocco's, where you are out in Cleveland. It's very fascinating. And I know you know quite a lot about it because you've been there now as pastor for quite some time, and you grew up there too.
Oh, yeah. Well, the story of St. Rocco Parish is very unique even to the Diocese of Cleveland, because the parish, as it is right now, this year, 1922, it was founded December 8th, 1922. So 2022 is the 100th anniversary of the parish. However, the community, the faith community of the Italian immigrants, has been here since 1914. And actually, that's the anniversary that we celebrated even 8 years ago. We celebrate always the 1914, because that's when the immigrants celebrated the feast of St. Rocco. So they came together and they had a street fair in honor of St. Rocco. And at first they raised the money from the street fair and then send it to their paisan and the gumbaz over there in Italy. And the majority of our people came from the province of Bari and the town of Neuquatro. And there's a great devotion to St. Rocco there. So as the years went on, by 1918, they had built a church, a little tiny chapel. And then they had a series of priests. Some were real priests and some were not real priests. They were imposters, and they would steal their money. They would pretend to perform the sacraments, and then the people believed them. Finally, the bishop found out about this little flock over here on Fulton and Trent Avenue on the west side, and in December of 1922, he established it as a parish. And he assigned a pastor, a diocesan priest, Father Alfonso de Maria. And Father Alfonso de Maria remained as pastor for 7 months and then became ill. So then the bishop appointed an administrator. And then in January of 1924, the Bishop of Cleveland entrusted the parish of St. Rocco's to the Mercedarian Friars, to the order of Our Lady of Mercy. And Father Santacatuso came as the first pastor. Our friars had previously been in the city of Youngstown at St. Anthony's, but in those days, Youngstown was part of the Diocese of Cleveland, which it is no longer. It is its own proper diocese. So Father Gattuso arrived here in 1924, and he just started working and organizing the people. And by 1926, they were building a church and a school on Fulton Road. They had bought a little parcel of land, and they were going to build this school and the church with a hall connected, and it was completed, and the school opened in September of 1927. It had 4 classrooms, and little by little, it just continued to grow and expand, and they made additions to it in the 1930s, and then the parish kept growing. And then because of the World War, Second World War, they were not able to build the larger church that they needed. So they waited until after the war. So in 1949, they broke ground for the present church that we have, which seats about 600 people. But you know, Italians were smaller back then, and everyone was thinner. So the church could really be packed, you know. And we had at one time on our Sundays, we had close to 3,000 people attending Mass on a weekend here at St. Rocco's in our you know, your October counts that you would do back in from the 50s and the 60s. The place, the golden age of the parish was really between 52 to 72, those years. Everything was just booming. The school had over 500 children in it. We had our own school bus. We had our own parish swimming pool here, our own enclosed swimming pool. There was so many activities, so many clubs, so much life. And you know, that kind of changed in the 70s with the flight from the cities and also the construction of the highways. But our parishioners, because of being an Italian ethnic parish, they always came back from the suburbs to the parish. And the Italian flavor, the Italian style, the Italian just tradition continues. We strive to keep it alive with various activities, and also our annual festival that we have on Labor Day weekend. And that festival goes back to 1914. And thousands of people come from out of state, even from Canada, just to come to St. Rocco's because of our food. We're very, very well known for our food. Everything is, our sauce is homemade, our meatballs are homemade, our lasagna, all the peppers and onions are cut by the parishioners, bushels upon bushels. We go through like at least 2,000 to 3,000 pounds of Italian sausage on that Labor Day weekend. It's a great party celebrating our patron, but it's a big fundraiser for our school. So
That is beautiful. I mean, a little bit about me as I'm listening. I'm thinking also of my in-laws. My husband's parents were born in Italy and, you know,
oh,
immigrated here in the
mhm.
early 1960s. And I just think it's a beautiful thing. I'd love to come out there sometime. You said people are coming from all over
They do.
to enjoy the beautiful festivities. And so if they want to learn more, I believe your website is stroccoparish.org.
It's all spelled out. Yes. Saint
Yes.
Parish. Yes.
So
And
check it out for people watching. They would like to attend this in the fall.
well, one of the unique things is so the parish is established after there was a parish festival, but the present church that we have, which was completed in 1952 and dedicated on March 16th, 1952, the church was built by the people. They built it. They collected bricks from demolished buildings, and the men of the parish built the building itself with their own hands. And their wives would cook in the evenings and take care of the things that they could. But if you look at the walls of the church, you have a thick wall of cinder block with your poured concrete in the cinder block and your rods, and then you have street brick, which is hard as anything, and then you have your exterior brick. So your walls are over a foot thick, and they're not going anywhere. It's the safest place to be if a tornado comes in to pass through the neighborhood here. So
Very thorough. I mean,
it is. Meant
what
to
a
last.
wonderful history. I mean, for you, and a blessing for you, I think, yourself, when I'm hearing your story about how your family was so involved and your parents had that desire for you to go to, as you said, a Catholic kindergarten, and where that led.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes, very true.
so much to learn. And so I just encourage people to, you know, learn more and go to stroccoparish.org. I thought as we're coming close to the ending of this program that we could talk
Sure.
about Lent. Here we are. It's kind of toward the end of Lent when this show is airing, and I
Hmm.
wondered if people who might be watching and thinking, I had these Lenten sacrifices that I wanted to do. I had some almsgiving that I didn't quite do as much as I wanted to. What do you think right now to those people? Would you have any words of wisdom for them?
I think the most important thing for us to remember as Catholic Christians is that Lent Lent is a specific time of grace given to us by the church and by God. But just because we're halfway through Lent or the end of Lent, it doesn't mean that we can't start. God's grace is always with us. And if we cooperate with that, we can do wonderful things. So I think many people forget that the disciplines of Lent are not just for Lent. They're supposed to help renew us, restore us, redirect us, conform us, so that we can continue to live better even after Lent. You know, it's like, I gave up this for Lent, but Easter I can just pig out. Well, then that doesn't help, because Lent is a time of grace so that we can discipline our souls and our bodies so that we can live better our Christian life the whole year through. And anyone who comes to me, or like you're, saying, there's folks out there, well, I haven't had, I didn't really do a good Lent. I didn't follow through. I didn't do this. Start up again. Just start up, because God is ever present, and God is ever mindful, and God is ever wanting. And it's always a good time for us to pick it up and go forward.
Yeah, great advice, I think, because you made a point also that we're in a season right now, but there is hopes that we can carry over, right? Carry this over, the good that we did,
Mm-hmm.
and the changes that we made, which are better for us and also for God and for all, go
Mm-hmm.
forward into the Easter season. Not to, as you said, pig out, right when Easter
Oh,
happens, or
I
something
love
like that.
I love Matt Kelly in Dynamic Catholic, where he says, don't give up chocolate for Lent,
Hmm.
because it makes no sense. I mean, unless you're not going to eat chocolate again for the rest of the year. So, I mean,
Yeah.
the intention of our disciplines, I think, we have to focus and look, what do I really need to improve on in my life, or what do I need to continue? And whether it's almsgiving and prayer, fasting, and so forth, which are your traditional disciplines, however, continue them throughout the year. So,
Amen. So thank you so much for being a guest on this show. I was very excited because I know we were trying to do this for quite a while. Did you have any final words before we end?
no, thank you. I just thank you for everything that you're doing, and with God's grace, continue the good work. Okay.
Thank you so much, Father. And we'll see all of you here next week on Journeys in Faith, Friday evening, 8:30 p.m. God bless.
God bless you now. Bye-bye.
Journeys of Faith is a production of Fiat Ministry Network and Patchwork Heart Ministry. For more information about Journeys of Faith, email info@fiatministrynetwork.tv. And be sure to friend, follow, and like us on social media. Just search Journeys in Faith with Anne DeSantis.